Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are talking about SEO news and updates.
This is born of me seeing something at a conference and going, what on earth is that? And they go, no, I've never seen that. And then doing a Google search and going, oh, yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. So the Google have been, changing what they look at in search results loads. Okay. So user experience is a big thing. So we started going, it's all about users having a great experience, staying on web pages loads and all those kind of things. And this EAT thing has been around for a while. And they've added another E, so it's EAT. So it's experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And I will not be able to say authoritativeness properly again, probably. So
it's easy for you to say.
Enjoy it while you can. Okay. They've been looking at this for a while, but it seems from a couple of things they've done becoming more and more front and center. This is then hand in hand with everybody panicking about SGE, so search generative experiences, i.e. Google using generative AI to give you search results, and suddenly the old world of SEO going out the window and Google deciding what's going to kind of show up in here as well. And it's quite interesting because, one, there's loads of lovely examples, and maybe we'll put some in the show notes, of SGE getting it wildly wrong. And it was, there was a great result. What should you do if you're in a kayak and you flip over? And it went on and on about all the different things you do. And it was all kind of correct and so on. Obviously, this is a critical safety situation. And it said probably one of the best things you can learn to do after your kayak is flipped over is probably learn to swim. It's a bit late at this point. I would suggest that you're learning to swim whilst you're upside down in a kayak. But anyway, so it's not perfect. But we should go through and look at these different areas and explore them a little bit.
That's just brilliant, isn't it? The pages of the manual are getting soggy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's and that's what's interesting is that they also talk about the things they will prioritize and things that could help you in a disaster or an emergency, and they're really trying to prioritize that content. If there's a news event or something, they're going to prioritize it, but they're getting it wrong.
So if we start with experience then.
Yes. So they are saying, does this reflect real hands-on experience? Does it share people's opinions and perspectives? So they're obviously trying to differentiate from someone just going, ChatGPT, write to me about this, as opposed to this is my perspective and this is my opinion on it. And what you're going to see, and we're seeing this in more and more places, that those individual voices are starting to come out in more places. So actually, and I'll talk about this later on, but your brand ambassadors internally, as in the key people, your key advocates internally, need to be talking as well as the brand needs to be talking. And we've said it before, it's the classic stat that I think I might have ended up making up, which is you're 12 times more likely to engage with an individual in a brand. And then when I try to untangle it, I was trying to work out where it came from. But it's roughly true. The point is you're much more likely to engage with an individual when you are a brand. So actually, as part of your strategy for social media, you want those internal people that are sharing their opinions, their insights, and those kind of things as well. And that reflects nicely into this first kind of experience piece. But, if you read something, it doesn't matter if it's a news story in a newspaper or a how-to, whatever it is, it really, if that person's got first-hand experience, you can tell. Whereas if they're writing about something because they've been told about it, it's a completely different thing.
It's got the capacity to have some really interesting outcomes, isn't it? So in a world now where literally so much of the content is being written by AI bots, is there an opportunity for somebody to massively game the system in a particular niche subject and force a fake agenda into, the sea of words out there that AI is relying on to draw on this stuff, to influence the AI, to make untrue things.
Well, this is one of the things that Google were talking about, particularly in training AI, training generative AIs. If there is more and more fake news out there, if the majority of news is fake news, you train an AI and AI will go, well, that must be true.
Yeah.
So they're using EAT to try and untangle that a little bit. And you'll see the slight overlaps between the different parts of it, but you'll kind of see where they're getting at this. This made sense before AI, but this is even more important from that point of view.
And I think you have to remember as well, with the introduction of SGE and how that might stop people getting more direct traffic, you have to then think, when you're writing content, what isn't being pulled from AI and what can't AI write? So then you look at writing more content that goes from first-hand experience.
Right.
They've added that experience and, thought leadership content.
Yeah.
So writing content like that becomes
It's original,
more
yeah.
important.
That's exactly it. So let's move on.
So talk about expertise.
Yeah, expertise. So this is really connecting up to those brand ambassadors. So the idea that you've got an article and you then have a link to the author, and what search engines and AIs are quite good at is working out the entities within something. So an entity might be, this is the physical address of this business. This is the product they sell. This is the CEO. This is a person, and all those kind of things as well. So if you then, from an article, say this was written by Kieran Rogers, and then you link through to Kieran Rogers' profile, and it can see Kieran Rogers is involved in these 2 websites, and he's published these books, and he's on this podcast. It makes those entity connections and goes, this is pretty trustworthy. This looks pretty good. I've seen people go through, generate websites using AI. They're adding an author. That author has been social media accounts that's full of stuff that's completed by AI. So people are trying to game this stuff already, but you can't create experience and expertise overnight. It's something that's going to build up over a period of time. So,
but make no bones about it, people will be doing that because there's a lot of money to be had by having these digital entities that can be manipulated.
That's it. So, you want to build up, and it means actually those people in your organization, those brand ambassadors, become really important. Now, then where people worry is say, well, if Kieran is, our marketing director and he's writing all our stuff and he's building up trust, what if he leaves and goes to work for someone else? The reality is that you can't control that. But,
takes that entity with him.
Yeah, and that's the risk. But what I would also say then is I had this previously. So I used to run an agency. We did a podcast there. And when I was leaving, the owner was very worried, well, you're going to leave and the audience is going to leave with you. All we did is bring in another entity, another person. We did a transition period. And we said, well, you build up your profile, you build up the audience, and then when I leave away, there will be a dip. But see, you kind of have to accept that's the case, but you have to plan from it as well.
So I'm going to say this word wrong now. Authoritativeness.
You did it. It was good. It's that saying it's a trusted author. So there's got the entity again. A trusted website. Think about how long that website's existed for, the profile of links, the quality of links that are coming through to that website as well. And that's the stuff that's really building up there.
And I'm guessing, like, similar to like SEO and businesses, like you need to have consistency with that.
Yeah. So I think your listings on business directories, your listings on websites like Wikipedia and all this kind of stuff, review websites.
Do they link to the correct place, or are they linking to some blog that you haven't touched for 3 years?
And
I've seen loads of that.
Well, if I just look at our stuff, you start deep digging, you kind of like, you just need to fix these things all the time.
So what about trustworthiness?
So there's 2 things here, which is one is your website secure? So you've got your secure server set up properly. There's no security issues. That's one of the basic things. But also the factual nature of your content, i.e., have you ever published something on your connected entities that's fake news or anything else like that? So if you're doing stuff on Twitter and then you get one of those warnings on Twitter that says, yeah, this isn't so true, that could actually have a bit of an impact potentially as well. The extent to which Google's looking at that, we don't know. But that trustworthy thing becomes important. So that was around for a while. You can kind of see how you might be able to influence this and try and make sure you're doing a good job of it. But then this thing, perspectives, which is the thing I saw on the screen and gone, what on earth is that? And then worked out. So what was basically happening is that you'll have a news story come out, whatever the news story might be. It seems to be a lot of the screenshots are at the Oscars and things like that. Okay. And then underneath it, you've got perspectives. And it's a tweet, and it's a YouTube video, and it's a Substack comment, and it's a website blog, and it's people's take on that particular thing. So, and it's like, well, how do they select the people? Well, they're looking for those people that have expertise, authoritativeness. I nearly went wrong. Basically, and then they're adding them in underneath to say, okay, here's the thing. Here's different people's perspectives on it. Now, this is about trying to have lots of different viewpoints on a particular thing, particularly for news stories and things like that. That makes sense. But actually, if you think about it, if I can AI generate content, what I really want is someone's take on it or their perspective on it or their position kind of on it as well. So something we've done with this, or we're starting to do, is that when we write articles, we're interspersing them with conversations about our opinions or our take on a particular topic as well, to kind of explore that topic a little bit more. One, that will make our content more in depth, but it also is a perspective that might end up in search. And also it's giving us that kind of expertise, authoritativeness, and those kind of things that are in there as well.
So I had a bit of an experience yesterday on the way here. I was sat at the airport waiting for my flight to Jersey. I was a bit bored and I was flicking through Facebook.
Bored in Southampton Airport?
I know, right. Well, I've been there quite a while because I got there, and I won't go into that, but I've been there several hours, Louis, several hours. And I drifted onto Facebook, as you do, and saw this really interesting photo of a giant skull.
Okay.
Then I got called to my flight. It's all right, get on the plane to dodge the heavy rain and all the rest of it.
Was this giant skull in the distant? Was it like a black and white photo?
Yeah, this was a colour one.
Oh, okay.
Right, it's a huge head.
I'd love to know where we're going.
The thing was, I was
Louisa looking at each other going,
I was
not
stuck
sure where
on
this
the
is
plane for like 40, 50 minutes, not able to fact check. Right.
And this was playing on your
It's
mind.
playing on my mind. I'm like, well, that looked pretty real, but they can't be real, can they? But that looked pretty real. And I was desperate to, because I spent 40, 50 minutes not being able to fact check something. And I want to believe giants were a thing. And I want to believe that they found ancient bones and that there was an ancient race of giant people. I want to believe that, but I couldn't check it. But even when I did get off the plane and the relief, I could check it. Yeah, straight to Wikipedia. No, looks like most of them are fake. Oh, okay. Park it. There's still tons of content out there, particularly in YouTube videos that say otherwise. And I'm still a little bit doubtful, only because I want to believe it. Is that wrong?
No, I mean, I think the fact that you're aware of your own bias to some extent, that you want to believe something, is fine. Yeah. But fake news, misleading stuff. I mean, the thing I'm seeing a lot of at the moment is someone will be selling a product and you take someone like Andrew Huberman, who does a lot of the stuff around physical exercise and morning routines and exposure to sunlight and your physiology and that kind of stuff. And they'll have a recording of him going, well, the amazing thing is it really makes an impact. And then they'll cut to a picture of the product. And all you need to do is take it 3 times a day. And actually, there's been a 24% increase in testosterone in the people that did. And their product's up at the end. And then you're like, he didn't mention that product at all. They've just taken him talking about something else. And they put their product over the top of it. But it sounds like he's talking about it. Then the worst one was, there was one with him and Joe Rogan, where basically they deep faked the audio. So they would talk about something. It was them talking about it. Then they would cut to the product. And then they would deep fake the voice, because it's really easy to deep fake the voice. And he'd say, yeah, and you can just go to this website and get it on www.buyourrubbish.com, whatever it is. So it's happening in a lot of places. We're going to see more and more of it. A lot of this stuff from Google is trying to help them to remove that stuff and give us the tools to go, is this true or not? Because that whole thing about perspectives, I can hear different people's perspectives about it. Now, the other 2 things that go with this is about this result. I didn't even notice this. Go to search for anything, search for your own product, whatever it might be. And next to the search results, there's 3 little dots now. And it will go about this. And you go through to it, and it will say, how long have they been indexing this website for? So like, how long have Google been looking at it for? Reference websites. Is this website mentioned in Wikipedia and places similar to that? What does it say about it? Review websites. What are the review websites saying about it as well? What other web results are there about this website? And what's really interesting, if you go into Google search and Google your own domain, okay, you'll get your website come up, but underneath it, it goes about this site. And it's got the review websites, it's got Wikipedia and those kind of things as well. So if you haven't got reviews, if you haven't got a Wikipedia entry, now is the opportunity to really try and look at that, because Google's clearly looking at it and they're kind of showing that to people, saying, can you trust this or not? Whether it's a ranking factor or not, it may just be they're doing it to help people trust. But it's certainly there. And they're actually also doing it about this author. So if you write something, you put your name against it, it will try and tell you, who's this person? Is there a Wikipedia entry? Where are the things about them online as well?
Just another note on that. If you have the keywords everywhere extension plugged into your Chrome, when you do a Google search, under each URL, it tells you the domain authority and backlinks and stuff like that. So that's another way to...
Yeah, it's a really good way, actually, of just looking at how trusted each of those kind of things are as well. I love keywords everywhere. It does make life an awful lot easier in a lot of cases. So I think all of this is telling us that search is going in a slightly different direction. We don't know where SG, the search generative experience, is going to go. But you need to kind of be prepped for it, because if you're very reliant on organic search and then suddenly Google completely changes the search experience, how they're collecting it, you could lose a lot of organic traffic. So starting to think about some of these techniques. Are you going to have internal ambassadors that you actually reference on each of your content? What are the risks of doing that as well? Are you adding perspectives? Are your ambassadors talking about their take on things within your kind of content as well? The bottom line, I would say, is the more this changes, the more it stays the same, i.e., build something that is exceptional, and you're going to get all the signals of user engagement, people clicking into it, trusting it, and all that kind of stuff as well. The question I was asked, which is a really good one, and actually I think this is the way around it, is like, well, what if the website's brand new? What if the author's brand new? How am I going to build trust? You've got to create something that signals out to Google and to everyone else, you have some expertise that no one has. You have something authoritative to kind of show them and so on as well. So it is that do less, do it better. So I wouldn't panic about this, but there was a lot of nerves about SG and what it's going to mean in terms of traffic, and no one knows is the reality. They might tell you they do, but the reality is that no one realizes, because Google was changing it the whole time anyway. So make sure that you're starting to think about your content in this way and you're structuring it in those kind of ways. We'll put all the links through in the show notes, targetinternet.com podcast. There's a great thing from Google on Eat. There's some great stuff on some of the other websites as well. SEMrush has got a really good article in there about it, and we'll link through to all of that stuff as well.
It could be amazing. I mean, it could be massively game-changing. Well, it wouldn't be lovely if this resulted in integrity being one of the most important values a company could have.
Do you know what? It's interesting, because at the moment everyone's trying to game things, and actually if the game is to have better integrity, what a great thing that would be, right?
That would be utopia.
But people try to game integrity. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think it's moving in the right kind of direction. We're having to think about these things.
It's getting a lot harder to do. I mean, I think it's much harder for a politician to barefaced lie these days, because they get pulled up left, right, and centre for it and fact checked.
No.
Do you not?
No, you can say anything. I think completely opposite. I think that actually politicians can say wild things now.
Oh, they do, and some of it sticks because people don't fact check. But there's a lot of organisations out there that are pulling them up and fact checking.
Yeah,
things
I guess.
they've said.
But what I'd also
you didn't used to have that at all. They would just say it, and it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, what I would also say though is that it's quite easy to drown something out. So something happens, and you can just, if you make more noise and more noise and more noise, that stuff disappears. But also, what we're going to get into is I say something, you say this, and we go, no, I didn't say it, was a deep fake. It wasn't me. I mean, it wasn't me. It's the Shaggy. It wasn't me, right? So that's what you're going to be able to do. And that's when it's going to get really tricky, because I won't know if it was a deep fake or not. Yeah. And there are technologies being created to try and detect deep fakes. Yeah. But what was happening was there was loads of work at Imperial College, where I lecture, and with Google, about creating software to detect AI-generated content. It's to stop plagiarism and people cheating, that kind of stuff. And actually, what you do is you just write it, then you rewrite it, and it was impossible for the tools to do it. So a lot of people just gave up and said, no, you can't, it doesn't work. So we're moving into an interesting territory where actually building your brand, building your experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness are going to be more important, because people are going to want to know who they can trust and who they can't trust. So I think now is a great time to invest in this stuff and start using some of these techniques and just think about it a bit more and build that into your plans. So as ever, thank you for listening to Digital Marketing Podcast, targetinternet.com/podcast, and you can get all of those links.
Please subscribe for more videos like this, and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.